So we'll get started, and other people can join us as they make their way into the room. Well, thank you for joining us, everybody who's in the room right now. My name is Claudine Brown. I'm the general manager at CAFKA. We are celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. So the CAFKA.21 Biennial, it is taking place as a series of activations throughout the summer, bringing thought-provoking contemporary art to primarily outdoor spaces in Waterloo Region. Our theme this year is Everything Not Saved Will Be Lost, and it invites us to reflect on our everyday practices, our values, and our hopes. It also asks us to think about the things that could and perhaps should be left behind. We're pleased to be presenting this evening the virtual opening reception and video screening for Ernest Daetwyler's The Boat Project, Everything Will Be Fine, in partnership with our curatorial partner, the Cambridge Sculpture Garden. CAFKA acknowledges that we live and work on the traditional territory of the Attawandaron, Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. The region of Waterloo is situated on Block 2 of the Haldimand Tract, land promised to 6 nations, which includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy, also known as the 6 Nations of the Grand River, were granted this land to enjoy forever as part of the 1784 Haldimand Treaty with the British, after the 6 Nations were dispossessed of their land in upstate New York following the American Revolution. The Haldimand Tract was reduced to less than 5% of this original territory in the over 200 years since, primarily through the loss of land to encroaching settlers. The Haudenosaunee Great Law emphasizes collective responsibilities and rights, and with this, the principle of the dish with one spoon. A treaty extended to the Anishinaabe and the British, which stipulated that the land was to be shared equally, collectively, and with the utmost attention paid to peaceful relations and the conservation of lands for future generations. As an organization composed of individual artists, arts workers, and community members with diverse backgrounds and histories, it is always our responsibility to learn, acknowledge, respect, and uphold the treaties made with Indigenous nations, and respect the right to land and life on unceded territories whose traditional caretakers continue to resist colonial violence today. We're going to go into the video screening, and then after the video, I'm going to just go over some quick housekeeping rules, introduce Ernest, and then we'll go into the artist talk and Q&A portion of the evening. So please enjoy.
Hello, my name is Judy Major-Girardin, and I'm the co-chair of the Cambridge Sculpture Garden. And we're here in the Sculpture Garden on this beautiful evening to celebrate the work of Ernest Daetwyler, the Boat Project, Everything Will Be Fine, which is behind me here, and also to launch a special performance by harpist Leslie Shapiro. I'd like to take a moment just to recognize that the land that we're on was first occupied by Indigenous people. And we are very grateful to share this land with all people and with all living things. I'd also like to take a moment to thank the sponsors for this exhibition, the Ontario Arts Council, which has sponsored the work of Ernest Daetwyler, the Cambridge Sculpture Garden, which is supported by donors, and the City of Cambridge. We're a charitable organization, registered charity, that's run exclusively by volunteers. And this particular project this year is in partnership with CAFKA, and I'm now going to turn it over to the director of the Contemporary Arts Forum in Kitchener and area to tell you a few things about that festival.
Hi, my name is Claudine Brown, and I'm the general manager at CAFKA, Contemporary Art Forum, Kitchener and area. This year, in 2021, CAFKA is celebrating its 20th anniversary as the longest running public art forum in Ontario. This year's theme for the 2021 Biennial is Everything Not Saved Will Be Lost. It's happening as a series of activations in public spaces across the region of Waterloo. It asks us to think about what stories are being told, what stories are not being told, whose stories are being shared, whose stories are not being shared, and it also asks us to reflect on our everyday practices and to think about what should and perhaps could be left behind. Ernest is a founding member of CAFKA and a former long-standing board member, so we are thrilled to have his work as part of the CAFKA 20th year anniversary.
My name is Ernest Daetwyler, and the bow project, Everything Will Be Fine here, is a guest. The boat is docking here for 2 years at the Cambridge Sculpture Garden. The Cambridge Sculpture Garden is located on the traditional lands of the Atewanderon, the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe peoples. It's part of the Haldimand Tract, which covers 10 kilometers on either side of the Grand River from its origin until Lake Erie. And I'm a guest also on these lands. The bow project, I collected the driftwood over a period of 2 years. From Lake Huron, so I spent a lot of time on Lake Huron. And Lake Huron is a magic place. It's a very spiritual place, so I ended up collecting a whole lot of driftwood, and then I was invited by Carol Padedwarny, Chief Curator and Director of McMaster Museum of Art, to develop a project for the garden, the artist garden in front of the museum. So that's where the bow project came into existence. I collected the driftwood and then built it on a steel frame with a welder and a canoe maker, and then showed it there for 2 years. And then it's now here at the Cambridge Sculpture Garden, opening for CAFKA. And it relates very much to the CAFKA theme, everything not saved will be lost, in terms of the environment, our natural environment, the air, the land, the water, and how important it is to take care of that. The bow project is the beginning of a journey, and I hope that after this pandemic, after this worldwide pause, that we as a society come to a collective pause and think about actually what our priorities are in order to survive as a species, in order for the survival of the planet, because it's a high risk that this is not going to work out if we continue like this. So in a way, I'm thankful for the pandemic and this pause, and I hope for a new beginning and a new journey. And this boat is sort of like a new start with just natural materials out in the open. I like it here, particularly with the historic oak. It's sort of a dialogue here in Cambridge Sculpture Garden. It's a beautiful environment, and yeah, it works really well. I invite everybody to come here to interact with the boat, to have a good time, to reflect and spend some time. Thank you very much.
So quickly, just our community guidelines and zero tolerance policy. We do hold a zero tolerance policy for the use of slurs, offensive language, racism, or any other form of marginalization or discrimination. Any violation of these terms will result in the participant being removed from the session. We would like to make sure that this virtual space is welcoming to all. So Ernest will be taking questions at the end of his talk, so please feel free to use the chat to ask questions and make comments. And now I'm going to introduce Ernest. So Ernest Daetwyler studied at the Schule für Gestaltung, Bern, Switzerland, the Centro Europeo in Venice, Italy, and received his master diploma from the Schule für Gestaltung, St. Gallen, Switzerland. His multidisciplinary exhibitions and public interventions and art projects are being presented in Canada and internationally. He is the recipient of numerous awards, including the Canada Council for the Arts, the Ontario Arts Council, Pro Helvetia Switzerland, the Swiss Federal Office of Culture, Presence Suisse, the Ontario Association of Art Galleries 2010 Exhibition of the Year Award, the Region of Waterloo Arts Fund, the Arts Awards Waterloo Region in Visual Arts, and the Pollock Krasner Foundation, New York. Ernest Daetwyler is a founding member, former artistic director, and executive director of the international artist-run Biennial CAFKA, that's us. And as editor, he produced several publications and has served the nonprofit organization on the board of directors and in numerous functions for more than 14 years. So, Ernest.
Hello, everyone. I'm not sure if I'm on the screen at the moment. Thank you very much for participating, everyone, in this virtual presentation. So we are in a pandemic, so the idea was to create this video with Robring Productions directly on site at the Cambridge Sculpture Garden and invite Leslie Shapiro from Guelph, the naked harpist, to perform at the boat. I really like her music and the aesthetics, the instrument in wood, how she plays, what she stands for. And I met her at Arts Everywhere in Guelph at the festival there. So I invited her to develop something for the boat project, Everything Will Be Fine. And I'm very happy how that turned out. And this video Robring produced and the quality of the sound. And yeah, this turned out really well. So I'm happy about that. Thank you very much to CAFKA for inviting the Cambridge Sculpture Garden to become a part of this year's Biennial, which turned out a little bit different with the pandemic. And I can only imagine the difficulties on the way. But this festival, this forum has turned out really, really well. And I'm happy that CAFKA can celebrate 20 years this year as its anniversary. The bow project relates to the theme, and it's has become for me a symbol for a journey and for the uncertainty and the fluxus we are facing in these current times, where we don't really know where things are going, and they can go either way. They can turn out really bad, they can turn out really good. So it's in a way, it's a very, very positive, hopeful gesture in space. It's also like a send off. Everything will be fine. It's like a send off to, for example, a loved person, a person you care about who goes away, and you say everything will be fine. Don't worry, everything will be fine. And from another perspective, it can have a darker notion that it can, the idea that everything will be fine is maybe difficult to follow if we see how things develop, particularly with climate change and how things turn out with the weather, how hot the summer are getting with the floods. Like the nature is reacting, the natural environment is reacting, and we have to pay attention and we have to change our ways in order to basically survive as a species, was what I mentioned in the studio, as a species, and also for the whole planet and all living beings. So that's kind of the idea of the bow project. So it's not clear if this boat built in driftwood will swim, if it's functional or not. It's an idea. It's an idea in space. Driftwood on its own is a material that has been in turbulent waters. It's marked by the elements. It's marked by wind, the water, the waves, stormy waters probably, and the air once it reached the beaches. So it's a very particular material I was attracted to and started to collect for its unique character. So all these pieces I transported with my van over time, over 2 years, and then this idea developed to build a boat.
So I worked with a professional canoe builder first in order to create the shape of the boat. It's computer programmed. And so we created basically a positive form of the boat, and then worked with driftwood all around it. And it became bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm very happy and grateful to Carol Poderoni of the McMaster Museum of Art. She loved the idea and she came to the studio and just loved it. And we installed it in the artist garden at McMaster Museum of Art with a big boom truck. And it was a major event, and I'm very happy how this turned out. And yeah, so that's how the bow project came into existence. And yeah, I would like to thank the Cambridge Sculpture Garden and CAFKA for making this possible. Thank you so much.
Okay. So we'll open it up to questions or comments. We do have a comment. Said, "What a beautiful performance." Yes, it is. Can you let us know what's going to happen to the boat? What's the boat's next home after the Cambridge Sculpture Garden?
I don't know yet. I don't know yet. It's everything is open. I'm not sure where it's gonna dock. We'll see. We'll see. I'm building a series of smaller drift boats at the moment. I got a Canada Council for the Arts grant to build temporary interventions with natural materials out in the open in front of museums, and in order for the public to directly interact. So I got awarded for that. So that's sort of the direction I'm going. There's going to be a tour with broken forests up north in the North Bay area. And so I'm with a few organizations. I'm working on environmental art projects, also with Abidjan Green Arts in Abidjan at the Ivory Coast. That's probably going to happen again. But where this particular boat in Cambridge is going to go, I don't know at the moment.
Still up in the air. We still have time to figure it out.
Yeah.
There's a question. Thank you so much for sharing with us this evening. Would it be at all possible to have a guess of around how many pieces of driftwood ended up being used?
Oh, I have no idea. We could maybe count busloads. So I have a small mini caravan. So I would say, and the seats were out, so the whole van was filled with driftwood from the beach. I would say 25 to 30 trips. And so it was just me and occasionally my daughter, Dana, walking around at the beach and talking, chatting, have a good time, looking at driftwood and collecting driftwood and bring it home. It was not like I would go there with a pickup and a trailer and 4 or 5 workers, or that I would just get it from somewhere or buy it from somewhere. So it's collected over time and spending time on Lake Huron.
Did anybody give you curious looks when you were taking the driftwood
Many,
away?
many.
Yeah.
But I'm used to it, and I don't really care.
Right, of course. Another question. You mentioned the canoe, but the form seems to also invite associations with other boat forms, from Viking ships to arcs, or even a futuristic do-it-yourself survival boat. Was the open form intentional to invite these other readings?
Absolutely. Like the people mentioned Viking boats or Northern European boats for fishing. And I also seen in Switzerland now versions of all the boats in this with this kind of shape appearing. So it's maybe like with the original form, it started as a sort of a canoe form because that's the only boat form really that works in North America. Like the settlers, they brought their ideas of boats, but they didn't work in the Canadian rivers and river systems. So the canoe is basically what is a boat that has worked here over time throughout history. And so I used originally that form, but it developed far away from it.
We have a comment. Thank you, Ernest, for all your contributions to the city. They are lovely and meaningful.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, my projects vary. So I have a few projects in the region, public art projects. So I work concept-based, idea-based, and it depends really on the place, on the community, and the particular location with what kind of idea I'm playing and what I'm engaging with. And often I do a lot of research. Research is a big part of my projects, and that leads me to a particular direction. And so my projects are very different from place to place. But thank you very much.
Let's see. Do we have anybody else who'd like to ask a question? And if you prefer to like ask the question and not type it in the box, we can facilitate that for you. If you'd like to speak directly to Ernest, we can do that. Comment, proximity to the river is a great connection to the Cambridge Sculpture Garden site. Absolutely. It's it's a perfect spot. Like, did you pick that spot or did you work with the Sculpture Garden together to come up with the location?
We looked at the site, Judy and I, Judy Major Girarda, and I looked at the site together, and that spot was available. And with the oak there and the close proximity to the Grand River, it was just a perfect place, a perfect setting. And Laura Marotta, who had a project in the previous two years there, she had a place for her sculpture there. It was time for a new one. We looked at it and it was just perfect. So we went with that.
I like it when things come together like that. Yeah.
Yes, it's always the best. Yeah.
Mhm. I'm just combing through here, seeing if anybody else has any questions, comments. While we're waiting, I'll ask another question. Has like environmental concerns always been a big part of your artwork?
It has always been a big part of my artwork. So some projects, it always depends on the site. So a lot of my projects have some activist approaches. They can be political. They can relate to violence. They can relate to war, like the project north of Berlin, Germany, I did with building a huge sphere with World War II rubble, and a 5.5 meter sphere where a whole group can go in and look at all these fragments of war and violence and interact with it, spend some time in there. And that was like a project of 8 months in a tricky region, a region that is marked by violence and a new neo-Nazi movement. So it was challenging in political terms and engineering terms. So a lot of my projects have an activist approach. It can be political or environmental, like the time bomb in a forest, also in Germany, in Darmstadt. And this time bomb is built with furniture from the forest, solid wood furniture that has been brought from the city back to the forest, where its origin is, also highlighting the environment, and that we are in an explosive situation. And there's a US Army camp close by, a stone throw away from where that sculpture was located. So yeah, I'm trying to have my projects relate to our time, to the time we are living in, And I feel that artists do have a responsibility to act in a way and address the times they live in. If they might choose escapism, they might choose any kind of engagement, but I think artists need to react. Like, we can't stand apart, we can't live in our own bubble. I did a project about bubble machines too. Anyway, but we have to participate in the world, and we have to take a stand. And the environment has been one of my prior concerns for a long time. Yes,
For sure. And that's something that affects everybody. Everybody can relate to that. It's something that should be important to everyone. We only have this one planet to live on. So that's I do appreciate that you're involving that into your artwork.
thank you very much. You're doing a great job, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
For CAFKA this year. Really enjoy all the activities going on.
Thank you. It's a big team effort, and just kind of rolling with all of the changes that are being thrown at us all the time. So yeah, I'm proud of our team. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Oh, we've got another one. Your pieces have a real human connection. The Luggage Project, KW Homelessness, etc. What has inspired this?
Which one? Which?
We have time. You can talk about both. So there's the Luggage Project was mentioned, and the Homeless Memorial in
Yeah. Yeah, maybe the Luggage Project would be a logic. So I'm a first generation immigrant. So this from my experience here coming to Canada, and Kitchener, or the former Berlin, formerly called Berlin, is today one of the most multicultural cities in North America. This may not be really known to everybody, but I found that out. And there was this public art competition, and luggage, like, it's all these immigrants, including myself, bring their luggage with me from their home countries. And luggage only is also a symbol for everything else that you bring with me, like your culture, your language, and it's always different. And you're obviously, when you arrive in a country, people are aware that you're coming from somewhere else, and you're being identified as coming from somewhere else. And this experience has been it's been a big part of my life, and I really enjoy that. I miss that in Switzerland. Switzerland is very white, and I miss that the idea of multiculturalism functioning. And I think it works to. I had this idea that it would work perfectly in Canada, but at this point I have seen and I have experienced a lot of realities, and now with we have to be aware of the genocide that happened at the residential schools, and there is really evidence and facts, and with ground radar all these graves are being unearthed. And so multiculturalism, and that all different cultures and people can live together in peace in Canada, was maybe something that I have in mind, but it's obviously the reality is a little bit different for people of color and minorities. So it's not that illusion, but it's very much on my agenda. It's very much what I would like to have and would like to see. Like, I would like to see an inclusive community where there's love, there's tolerance, and everybody can make a living and live peacefully together. Like, there's no reason to live otherwise. And so this luggage is a symbol for all these people coming from all these different places. And then 3 luggage pieces, they're carved in limestone. I carved them myself with hand tools. I have a classic sculptural background, and it took me a while to learn these craft techniques and classical art aspects and so on. But I'm very thankful, and I'm employing them every once in a while. So these are hand carved limestone, Indiana limestone. sculptures, and 3 of them working as fountains. So water becomes a symbol as everything that immigrants are bringing with them. One luggage piece is a refugee bundle, like just a book, some socks, and some clothing, just gathered and then being on the run. It's one of the fountain pieces. And when I won these competitions, all of these projects, most of them are national competitions, except of some self-initiated ones. When I won this competition, I got a call from a local historian, and he said, you know, that there was a luggage company, the McBride Luggage Company, was one of the biggest North American luggage producers, luggage and furniture makers, and they were just 50 meters away from Victoria Park, where the luggage project is located, producing all their luggage pieces. So that was another revelation. And so 2 of the luggage pieces are from that McBride company, that historic McBride company. Other luggage pieces I got from, I have one from a curator, and then I got other ones. So yeah, it's about inclusivity and basically celebrating the migration experience to this city and what all the things that immigrants are bringing with them. I think it's a reason to celebrate. And the Kitchener-Waterloo Homeless Memorial Between a Rock and a Hard Place came as a response from Susie Gorsai. She has a homeless experience, lived on the streets for 20 years in Kitchener. And she saw the luggage project, and she actually called the city following that and to contact me. And following that contact, we talked. I met the group, the KW Homeless Memorial group of volunteers from major non-profit organizations who are involved in helping the homeless, Ray of Hope and the Working Center, the House of Friendship, Lutherwood, YW, and everybody came on board in trying to make this reality and following Susie's vision of having a memorial for the people we lost, the homeless people we lost on the streets of Kitchener, right? You don't see these people really. You see a few people on the streets, and then a lot of them are disappearing, or they just disappear. Like there's no recognition, sometimes there's no family, and there's no memory of people who lost their lives living homeless in our cities. And it's not really a topic that people want to engage with, and people have a lot of prejudice and things in this direction. So I worked with these non-profit organizations, and then I applied to the Region of Waterloo Arts Fund, and I got an arts grant for it. I got a big arts grant for it early on, and that was just making everything easier. So I was really happy that the Arts Fund came on board. It's also a competition, all these grants, but I was really fortunate to get the funding to proceed, and it was just a really good Kickstarter for everybody else to come on board. So that worked out really well. It's installed in the Vogelsang Green Park, and we were able to, together with the city, work together on a placement, and yeah, it looks all right. So thanks so much again.
We have another question. So the series of smaller boats that you mentioned that you'd be working on sounds really interesting. Is this something that you'd show as a series altogether along with the current boat project, or is it entirely its own work?
It's going to be like a new body of work with smaller boats, and I'm actually looking for several venues to present them. They're basically coming into existence right now. So there's a few new little boats, and so I'm gonna work with the idea of temporary interventions and installations on this 2 weeks tour in Canada's north, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Nice. As a response to the previous question, thank you for sharing with us. Both projects are important, but I especially love that you care about the homeless and made a dedication to them.
Thank you. Yeah, people forget about this, and it might be worse in the States, the issues of homelessness, but it has become a really, really urgent topic also in Canada, and particularly in Toronto just recently, and also with the mayor using excessive police force to remove homeless people wherever they appear. And what we've seen also in this recent past is neighbors of these parks where the homeless basically live for a while and establish, some presence. They solidarize with the homeless people and their experience, and they have taken a stand for the homeless people. So I think that we really, as people, need to stand together and find together solutions to to um, to remove these issues of class and prosperity that start to escalate to a point where billionaires have just enough money to fly to the moon. Yeah. I mean, before it was between the United States, right, or Russia, and then China tried to get to the moon, and nowadays it's single people, and these billions, they come from somewhere, and somebody paid for these billions. This is not earned money, right? So we have to talk about class, and we have to talk about the disappearance of the middle class, which involved that a person with a single income, man or wife, man or woman, could have a household and could raise a family and could have a car and could have a living. And nowadays it looks like it needs like two incomes, and even that might not be enough to have a decent living, right? And then we realize we have a problem, and we have a problem with affordable housing. There's way too less affordable housing. And in Kitchener, we have a bonanza of building condo towers, and with really expensive condos. And the prices for any normal flat or affordable housing is becoming a huge, huge problem. So people can't basically just simply not afford a flat anymore, and they end up on the streets, first couch surfing with friends maybe, and then on the streets. And this is a sign of our time, and we have to address it. Like, we can't just close our eyes on and continue our lives in privilege, right? So that's what the Homeless Memorial is addressing. Like, it raises awareness of these issues, and I'm very thankful that the city was in full support of the Homeless Memorial. Like, I'm really thankful for that. There was some opposition, like there's always opposition, but yeah.
Yeah, with public art, you're never going to make everybody happy. It's just not possible, right? So we know how that goes.
Yes.
So I don't see any more questions. So I think we'll wrap it up there. Please go and visit the boat project in the Cambridge Sculpture Garden. Again, we'd like to thank the Cambridge Sculpture Garden for partnering with us on this project. There's still a lot of beautiful summer days left, so it's a nice little trip. You can go down there, visit the garden, visit the other sculptures. If you'd like to see what other programming we have on for the rest of the biennial, you can visit our website at CAFKA.21.CAFKA.org. And thank you everybody for joining us this evening and for your great questions. And we hope you enjoyed the video. And thank you, Ernest, for your time this evening.
Thanks so much, everyone at CAFKA, and thank you so much, Claudine.
All right.